There were some psychedelics that were strictly reserved for like priestly classes, but all throughout history, you see people like at the street level, it's most common that they enjoy themselves by drinking and smoking. And this is the modern equivalent of Republicans trying to go, let's ban drinking and smoking so that the poors literally can't have fun. Because in their mind, the poors are black. Hemp ban hidden inside government shutdown bill. Mitch McConnell backed the move. Okay. What the bill actually does, hemp language appears in the agriculture FDA spending bill, which is bundled into the shutdown deal. It would redefine hemp to include total THC, not just Delta-9 THC. Count any cannabinoids with similar effects towards the THC total. Prohibit synthesized cannabinoids or converted CBD intermediates. Cap finished hemp products at 0.4 milligrams total THC per container. So it's a war on drugs type shit. Damn, the Republicans really hate weed. I'll save the game, then let's take a look at this Hill article. Oh my god, what is happening? Stop with these ads, please. I would love it if you didn't show me these ads. Stop! Ad nauseum, what is wrong with you? Sorry, Ad nauseum, you have, you've disappointed me. See, now, with just uBlock Origin, there, look. No ads whatsoever. This is relevant to, I think, the fate of the Republican Party. Because this is, like, Mitch McConnell's brainchild. From what I have heard. Hemp industry battles to save THC products from ban. 5 things to know. Okay. A provision of the government funding bill aims to clarify the definition of hemp and close the loophole that allowed hemp-derived products, the hemp-derived product industry to flourish with barely any regulation. The fuck is this? Okay, whatever. Industry is gearing up for a significant lobbying fight, claiming the language could ban nearly all hemp-derived consumer products and will put companies out of business. Okay, well, you don't want hemp shit to be banned, right? I don't know why the framing here is like, oh my god, they're getting away with not being regulated. Bro, this isn't not being regulated. This is like, you're going to completely ban the thing that we're selling. Regulating the sale of a thing means by necessity that you are not banning completely the sale of that thing. For example, regulations on the sale of food goods that have a lot of sugar in them. For example, you know, you have to make sure that the food is cured properly, can keep for this long. You have to make sure that you're not putting more than 100% the daily value, whatever, of sugar. You can put a lot of sugar in there, but like not more than such and such, right? These regulations are limits, but fundamentally at the core of it is, yes, you can still sell the thing, right? It's still legal and fine for you to sell the thing. This is more applicable to controlled substances like THC, alcohol, etc. But this would just be a ban. This would be like, it's illegal to sell cocaine. Cocaine is an illegal drug, right? Like, that's not a... Cocaine isn't regulated, it's banned. There's a difference between... Alright, microcosm of really fucking annoying media framing, but nonetheless. Hemp was legalized in the 2018 Farm Bill with the intent that it could be used in agriculture and textiles. But the law's broad definition, subsequent lack of federal regulation, created a loophole that allowed companies to extract high levels of THC, the psychoactive compound responsible for a high. Oh, I see. So you just hate weed. Also, hemp, I think, is like... Well, again, it's used for textiles. The market soon flooded with hemp-derived gummies, drinks, and vapes that gave people marijuana-like high without being considered marijuana. Here's what to know. Driven by Mitch McConnell. So Republican dinosaurs really, really wanted to ban weed even more than it's already banned, not realizing that, like, banning, like, hallucinogenic substances is way the fuck less effective for making sure there's not a crisis of people crashing out on drugs all the time, than just regulating those substances so that you can like monitor how people use them in what circumstances and provide like medical services and cleanly distribute them accordingly, right? It's like how if you ban heroin, more people will die of heroin than if heroin is perfectly legal, because if it's legal, there can be government-sanctioned injection sites with clean needles. You can have rehab centers where people don't need to fear the law if their life genuinely starts really going south as a result of drug usage. And heroin is one of those drugs that like you do once and it's basically guaranteed that your life is going to go south, because of like both because of the addictive qualities and the long-term negative health impacts that it can have, or that it does have. They literally just want to moralize against you for doing the devil's substance or whatever, and they're okay if like thousands more people die because of it. They just hate fun, and they hate anything that doesn't involve punishment by the state for being a naughty boy or girl. Again, shit like this comes back to the psychosexual. There is no avoiding it. Yeah, they want a steady supply of criminals so that there can be cheap labor for corporations in the state. Remember that when they tried to go after video games a long time ago? I do remember that. Some technical details. I don't really care about the technical details because the objective for this is pretty plain, that they just really don't want people to be able to access any kind of psychedelic substance or anything that would induce a high. Yeah, like literally, it's something that people can use for purely recreational purposes. Therefore, we must ban it with the force of the state completely. Not even regulate it, just ban it. Rand Paul threatened to derail the bill's passage, waged a fight last minute, tried to keep the provision out of the government funding bill, threatened to drag out the process until he got a vote on the amendment to strip the language. He got that vote Monday. Paul and Ted Cruz were the only Republicans who voted in favor. Most thoughtless, ignorant proposal to an industry that I've seen in a long time. Of course, classic Rand Paul, ever the libertarian. He's like, bro, this is going to be profoundly harmful to the businesses that sell hemp products. He's correct, but of course that's like a hilariously like fucked framing to view this issue from. It is like there is legitimately the potential that this could have some sort of economically destabilizing impact because of how long businesses have sort of gradually been able to get a foot in like the cannabis market or whatever. But ultimately, I think it's just a core component of the Republican Party, especially among the older guard like Mitch McConnell, that they hate anything fun that could allow you to have fun, and they want to use the force of the state to crack down on it because that's something that isn't completely subservient to the patriarchal state. Anarchist theory moment. But this is something that you don't commonly see anymore. This is more of a dinosaur kind of avenue of pursuing that. It's mostly the Bush and earlier era Republicans that are very war on drugs pilled, you know? The newer Republicans tend to be like the way that newer generation Republicans act on their psychosexual urge to turn the country into a submissive hellhole where the state reigns supreme and some such, is to try to strip women of their rights directly, you know, the whole revoke the 19th crowd or whatever. But with the dinosaur Republicans, their beef is more with the black community, and their concern is more so making racial minorities subservient to the state. And controlled substances are things that racial minorities tend to engage in more, or minorities of any sort, because it tends to be like a more marginal means of recreation, consistently like what the moral majority types would call vices have usually been the purview of less wealthy communities because they don't have the wealth to engage in some of the more lucrative recreational pursuits that are associated with like the upper classes, right? Does that make sense? And that is something that I've read at length about in like my archaeology classes. There were some psychedelics that were strictly reserved for like priestly classes, but all throughout history, you see people like at the street level, it's most common that they enjoy themselves by drinking and smoking, you know? And this is the modern equivalent of Republicans trying to go, let's ban drinking and smoking so that the poors literally can't have fun. Because in their mind, the poors are black. Could impact almost all products. Yeah, that's the point. 1 year lead time. Unconventional allies. I legitimately don't know. I don't know what the implementation of this is going to look like, but I do know it's actually going to be pretty ugly for the Republican base. This is why I saw fit to talk about this. The psychosexual character of the modern right-wing coalition, you know, the younger Republicans, the Nick Fuentes types, the psychosexual character of those people is actually much, much different than the psychosexual character of, like I said, dinosaur conservatives, where they act on their psychosexual urges mostly in regards to women. It's much more undisguised in that respect, where they want to be, their actually open aspiration is to be the patriarch upon which the authority of the state is vested directly or indirectly, and they want to be able to dominate women around them. It explains why they're so like obsessive over hating gay people, but also like they don't even like women themselves, right? Profoundly closeted because they just want that sort of psychosexual control. Whereas the Republicans of yesteryear are more concerned with a long-standing hatred for black people because they're fucking racist and you know, are more hopped up on the myth of the poor white women being infringed upon by scary sexually virulent black men, and they sort of act on that to try to destroy the black community. It's why the war on drugs was started to begin with, is to destroy the black community and destroy the left particularly, because the carefree hippie left back in the 70s was doing all those drugs. Yeah, basically, did they admit that? Yes, officials from the Nixon administration have confirmed that's the entire reason that the war on drugs exists, is purely to disrupt black communities, minority communities, and left organizing, and which is very time-coded to the 70s. But then after that, because it hurts minority communities disproportionately, other governments subsequently after Nixon kept pursuing it because they fucking hate minorities. But because the kids these days, even the Republicans, really like smoking weed, the war on drugs kind of rhetoric has fallen out of favor, and they've kind of needed a new venue of psychosexual hysteria for the younger audiences. And what they've settled on is hating trans people and women. You know? This, and so to bring it back to the point I wanted to emphasize, this is actually going to have some deleterious impacts on the Republican coalition. Like, this is going to cause a rift, or exacerbate the rift between the older generation of Republicans, you know, the neocons and I would say the MAGA types, but with MAGA kind of falling apart, the you know, the far right, the America First or MAGA or whatever they decide to call themselves going forward, you know, that has been an existing rift, and it's going to be worsened because of stuff like this, which is bad for the right wing, and I'm here for it, frankly. Yeah, by the way, the actual quote from the Nixon admin official was, "We knew that we couldn't arrest people for being black or being against the war in Vietnam. But if we associated drug use with both of those two things and then criminalized it heavily, then we had a pretext functionally to go in and break up those communities." You know? Like, we can't arrest you on, like, for not liking the Vietnam War or for being black, but we can arrest you for doing drugs, which is something that everybody does, you know, for the most part. And by everybody, I mean like every demographic of people. White, black, poor, rich, men, women, etc. And there's still people that defend the drug war. Yeah, and those people are just submissives, but instead of being submissives for their partner in the home, they're submissives for the state. Everything is about sex, except for sex, which is about politics, and everything is about politics, except for politics, which is about sex. To put it shortly, all politics is sex and all sex is politics. You may be surprised to see that line of analysis for something as small as like, oh yeah, these old fuck Republicans put like a little provision in the bill that would like crack down even harder on THC and hemp and whatever because they don't like weed. But genuinely, that is what this stems from. I might even want to like reread The Mass Psychology of Fascism just to re-up on all that sort of subject, because it's so important to understanding, I'd say modern politics, but politics in any time period, with now being a moment of particular instability and socio-political angst, to understand the psychosexual motivations that drive people. See the one comic where Captain America of all people says no to drugs? What do you mean of all people? It sounds like totally in character for the Marvel comic writers to make Captain America their poster boy for the war on drugs. Every comic book was like that back in the day. Just like how every comic book had this weird phase where they were like all 9/11 posting after 9/11. Comics always get up to that cringy shit because that's part of the consent manufacturing cycle. That's how they you know, get to the younger audience that doesn't typically watch the news. That's how the sort of ideology of the ruling classes propagates its way downward. Oh yeah, that's true, because Captain America being like, basically they gave him the super soldier serum, which is itself a drug. That is very funny. Anyways, the war on drugs is cringe. And I'm just glad that it's gonna tear the Republican Party apart even harder. This is just the cherry on top of the fucking Epstein emails cake. What with you know, it being discovered that Donald Trump blew Bill Clinton, you know, but just a nice bonus on top of that. Now cut the segment. Thanks for watching, and support the channel if you would be so kind.